Have you ever just stopped and really thought about what makes human communication so different? I mean, from all the other animals out there, the barking, the calls, the gestures, is it really just the words? Or is it something deeper, maybe more ancient, like a current running underneath our language that lets us connect, truly understand each other, build meaning together? Today, we're not just dipping our toes into linguistics, we're going deep. We're taking a journey way back to the very first sparks of communication, trying to trace that line from those ancient murmurs right up to our chats today, and hopefully solve a puzzle that's had thinkers scratching their heads for ages. Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we dig into fascinating sources, pull out the key insights, the real nuggets of knowledge, and try to make complex stuff clear, memorable, and, well, useful. For this deep dive, we're looking at Chapter 2. Communication, Emotion, and Meaning. It's from a really insightful book called Mastering Mind by Oscar Enrique Munoz. And our mission today, it's pretty profound, actually. We want to unpack the absolute basics of communication. We'll explore how these ancient emotional patterns, these protocols, actually underpin even our most complex symbolic language. And this is the really cool part. We'll see how understanding this just dissolves a paradox, a really tricky one in communication theory. This isn't just, academic talk. Getting this connection, it fundamentally changes how you see your own everyday interactions. It shines a light on why we sometimes connect so deeply or why we sometimes just completely miss each other. So let's start our descent.
Yeah, it really is a journey into the very origin of how we share understanding. It's a question that, well, philosophers, scientists, they've wrestled with it for centuries. And the source, it starts by painting this really vivid picture of animal communication. It describes it as something quite distinct from, our own complex language. It calls it a mere proto-communication.
Proto-communication. Okay.
Yeah, and even more evocatively, an ancestral murmur in the vast symphony of being.
Wow, ancestral murmur. That phrase really gives you a feeling, doesn't it? Like the very first simple notes before the full orchestra kicks in. A basic hum, but limited somehow.
Exactly. It's foundational, but not the whole picture. And the source immediately points out its key constraint.
Yeah.
Animal communication is, and this is the quote, intrinsically constrained by its repertoire of basic emotional protocols.
Okay, basic emotional protocols. So what does that mean in practice? How does that limit them compared to us?
Well, it means their communication is driven almost entirely by these fundamental innate emotional states. Think about it, right?
Yeah.
A bird's sharp alarm call that's a direct, immediate blast of fear or danger, or a dog's growl. It signals aggression, a warning. It's happening now.
Mm-hmm.
These are functional exchanges tied directly to survival, to basic needs like hunger, threat, finding a mate. The meaning isn't in some abstract symbol. It's in the emotional cue itself.
So it triggers a direct emotional or behavioral response in the receiver.
Precisely. It's very immediate. They convey states, I'm scared, I'm hungry, back off. But not really complex ideas or abstract thoughts or talking about things that aren't right there in front of them.
Right. So like a monkey can't tell another monkey, hey, remember that amazing mango tree we found last Tuesday up the ridge? Let's plan to meet there tomorrow around lunchtime. That kind of thing is just off the table.
Exactly. That's a perfect illustration. It's functional, definitely. It allows for crucial coordination, warning about predators, pointing to food, sorting out who's boss, vital stuff. But the nuance is incredibly limited compared to us. When one monkey grooms another, the little sounds or gestures they make, that's mostly about social bonding, comfort. It's a direct emotional transaction that keeps the group tight.
Okay.
But there's no equivalent of them debating the meaning of life or planning a multi-stage hunt using abstract strategies or, wondering about the stars. The meaning comes almost entirely from the feeling itself, that raw fear, that contented sigh. Not from a carefully built argument or a shared memory of something far away.
Okay, that makes sense. So this proto-communication, it's essential for them, but it really throws into sharper life what makes human communication so different. It sets the stage for understanding what we added, or maybe what evolved from that base.
Exactly. It's the foundation upon which something much more complex was built.
Which leads us perfectly into the classical theories, right? People like George Herbert Mead. They were trying to pinpoint exactly what that difference was. They weren't just satisfied with saying, we use words. They wanted the unique ingredient. What did Mead think it was?
Right. Thinkers like Mead were definitely trying to nail down that differentiator. They saw this ancestral murmur, but knew there was more to the human story. His work was really pivotal in trying to articulate what makes our social interaction qualitatively different? How do we get beyond just reacting to each other's emotions?
Okay, let's dive into Mead. His big idea seems to be this concept of the generalized other. Sounds kind of academic, but you're saying it's key. What exactly did he mean by that?
It is key, and yeah, it was a revolutionary idea for its time.
Hmm.
Mead argued that what makes human communication unique is this special kind of egoic activity. He called it the nascent consciousness of the generalized other.
Okay, nascent consciousness of the generalized other. Let's break that down.
Right, it's a bit of a mouthful. But the core idea is this. We humans have this incredible, unique ability not just to think about ourselves, but to simultaneously imagine how other people are thinking about us. We look at our own actions, not just from our own viewpoint, but from the vantage point of a presumed generalized social persona.
So, like, we have an internal focus group running, testing our words and actions against what we think society or the group expects.
That's a great way to put it. A constant internal social mirror. It's not just being self-aware, it's being socially self-aware, knowing how you fit into the group. And this egoic activity, it's not fixed. It's dynamic, always developing as we interact.
So it's not just about one person's perspective, but seeing ourselves through the eyes of the whole group, like a collective viewpoint. And it's active, this nascent consciousness. It grows and changes. That's really interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When we're in any social situation, which is, basically most of our lives, to take the attitude of the other, as Mead put it, means immersing yourself in the manifold perspectives of many others. You're synthesizing a kind of average viewpoint of the group.
Okay.
And the goal of doing this, according to Mead, is to get a clear operative image of the group's intricate identity. This mental map of the collective allows for incredibly sophisticated social coordination. We anticipate reactions, we follow norms, we adjust our behavior, all based on this internal picture of the generalized other.
Can you give us a clearer example? Something every day where this is happening, maybe without us even realizing it.
Oh, absolutely. Think about just waiting in line for coffee.
Yeah.
You automatically know the unspoken rules, right?
Sure.
Don't cut in line, don't spread your stuff all over the counter, try to have your order ready.
Yeah, definitely.
You're not necessarily thinking about the specific person behind you, but about the generalized other, the collective expectation of how people behave in a queue. You adjust your actions based on that internalized norm.
Right. Makes sense.
Or, maybe a more complex example,
Yep.
preparing for a big presentation at work. You don't just focus on what you want to say, you actively try to anticipate how your audience, that your generalized other here, will react.
Mm-hmm.
What questions will they ask? What are their expectations about the topic, the tone, how you deliver it? You tweak your language, your slides, even how you stand, based on that imagined collective perspective. This constant mental simulation of the group's viewpoint, this awareness of shared rules and expectations, that's what Mead thought was absolutely unique and central to human communication. It's what lets us build complex societies, create laws, have debates about abstract ideas.
Okay, that really clicks. It shows the incredible layers in our social interactions. But then the source hits us with a curveball, a really deep conceptual problem that kind of shakes the foundations of Mead's idea. It feels like discovering quicksand under your feet. And here's where it gets really interesting. It sounds like that classic chicken and egg problem.
It absolutely is. And it's a fundamental paradox that Mead's framework, brilliant as it was, really struggled to resolve on its own terms. The core dilemma is this. For this communion, this deep understanding of the generalized other, to even happen, wouldn't you need some kind of pre-existing communication within the group, or at least a minimal awareness of this generalized other to start with?
Hold on. So to understand the group, you need some shared understanding beforehand.
Exactly. You need some common ground to even begin the process of understanding the collective perspective.
But wait, didn't Mead say that you get that awareness of the generalized other only through the very act of communicating? So how can you start? It seems like you need the thing you're trying to achieve before you can achieve it. It's a loop.
That's precisely the paradox. Mead's own theory states that awareness is precisely achieved through the very act of communicative action itself. So yeah, it creates this inescapable self-referential loop, a fundamental logical contradiction. To be able to communicate in this sophisticated median way, to take the attitude of the other, you'd first need some inherent grasp of the group's identity, their shared norms. But you only gain that grasp through communication. It's a circle you can't seem to break into.
Like trying to learn a language by reading a dictionary written in that same language you don't know yet.
Exactly. And the source explicitly points out this echoes the familiar paradoxes regarding the origin of language itself. How did language, or even just basic shared meaning, ever get off the ground if you need shared meaning to make sense of the sounds or signs in the first place. It's not a small issue. It's a major conceptual gap.
So these classical theories, Mead included, they're good at explaining how we use language once we have it, how we navigate social roles. But they don't explain how the very first building blocks, the basic meanings, the shared understanding ever came to be. They're missing that primordial substratum of meaning, as the source calls it. They don't have the spark.
That's a critical weakness and a huge challenge. The source says these theories, quote, neither fully account for a theory elucidating the formation of the basic lexicon, that primordial substratum of meaning which renders communication possible. They explain the grammar, the social rules, how we use words, but not how tree first came to mean that specific leafy thing for two separate people and how they knew they were on the same page.
Right.
And it's not just words. They also lack the framework to explain what enables an interlocutor to internalize received information and interpret it within an identical frame of reference. How do I know that my concept of, say, fairness even remotely matches yours when we talk about it? If we don't have that shared frame from the start, how can we possibly build complex understanding?
This really raises a massive question, doesn't it? If the very foundation relies on something that itself needs the foundation, where do you begin? It makes empathy, truly seeing from another's view, seem almost impossible without some initial, unexplained magic spark. It leaves this huge, frustrating gap in understanding how shared meaning, shared consciousness even, could have possibly started. Without resolving this, the origin seems almost mystical.
Precisely. It's a theoretical dead end that has really bothered thinkers. Without a solution, it feels like a crucial piece of the human communication puzzle is just missing. It kind of forces you towards explanations that aren't very scientific or evolutionary.
Okay, but here's the breakthrough. The source says it is precisely here that the theory of basic emotions steps forth, filling this epistemic void and dissolving the aforementioned paradox. This is it. So how? How do basic emotions, something so seemingly primal, fix this massive conceptual knot?
This is where it gets really elegant. The theory of basic emotions provides that missing link by bringing in evolution. It asserts something crucial. Communicative action, in its most rudimentary forms, was already a living force long before the appearance of the human species.
Ah, okay. So we're shifting the starting point. Communication didn't begin with humans and language. It began much, much earlier, rooted in biology.
Exactly. Our incredibly complex symbolic language, the thing that lets us do philosophy or science, didn't just pop into existence out of nothing. It built upon the pre-existing interpretive possibilities embedded within these ancient emotional protocols.
So our sophisticated linguistic software, you could say, runs on the much older hardware of our shared emotional biology. That's a fascinating image.
That's a perfect analogy. Our language, yes, immeasurably more sophisticated, but it did not spring from a vacuum. Before we had words for complex ideas like justice or democracy, we had the built-in ability to see, react to, and express basic emotions: fear, joy, anger, sadness, and others. These shared emotional responses, that was the first rock-bottom, primordial substratum of meaning. That was the original common ground.
What's so powerful there is that it makes our capacity for complex communication less of a sudden invention and more of a deep evolution, an amplification of something ancient, something we share with other creatures. It points beyond just humans.
Absolutely. And this is exactly how it solves Mead's paradox. That crucial ability to take the attitude of the other doesn't need a pre-existing abstract understanding of the group or symbols which cause the loop. Instead, it becomes possible through an underlying emotional uniformity that traverses and unites both within and across species.
Wow. Okay, so the common ground that pre-existing communication needed to start everything isn't complex social rules or words, but a shared emotional language, a universal biological wiring for recognizing basic feelings.
Precisely. That shared emotional substrate, recognizing joy, fear, anger, sadness, surprise, disgust, that's the initial pre-linguistic common ground for interpretation. Before we had a word for danger, we could recognize the feeling of fear in another's face, their posture, their cry.
And that recognition is taking their attitude, understanding their state.
Yes. You're sensing their internal state through an emotional channel. This understanding is immediate, it cuts across cultures, it's deeply wired in us. And this, the source says, leads without solution of continuity, meaning smoothly, no sudden breaks, from the primordial gesture to the complex symbol.
Like a river starting as a trickle and becoming a huge delta. It's all connected.
Exactly. It's an unbroken evolutionary chain. And through this very process, recognizing and interpreting shared emotions, It allows for the emergence of an ego that is simultaneously communicator and interlocutor. Our sense of self as a communicator grows out of this shared emotional root.
So this really changes how we should understand Mead's idea. Taking the attitude of the other isn't just a cold cognitive calculation. It's got to be, as the source puts it, comprehended metaphorically as a semantic equivalence rooted in possessing a shared emotional constitution. It's not just about brain power, it's about connecting on a feeling level first.
That's a crucial clarification. It means our deep empathy, our ability to truly get someone, isn't solely about logic or complex thought. It's fundamentally about connecting through this common emotional language that existed long before symbols. When you just feel what someone else is going through, or you sense the mood in a room, or you share that collective buzz at a concert, you're tapping into this shared emotional wiring. This basic pre-word understanding creates the first bridge for meaning. It's the foundation upon which all our complex words, our entire vocabularies, could finally be built. It gives us that initial identical frame of reference that the earlier theories couldn't explain.
And this leads to the idea of the communicating ego. The source says the communicating and interlocutory ego is, thus, nothing more than the unique particularization of the communicative node. Okay, what does that mean for me, for my sense of self?
It means our individual ego, our sense of self as a social being who talks and listens and understands others, isn't some fixed thing we're born with. It actually emerges from these communicative acts which are grounded in emotion. And the source adds that its inherent complexity is proportional to the richness of the emotional protocols being communicated, and from which it has, in turn, emerged.
So, the more nuanced our emotional understanding and expression, the more complex our sense of self as a communicator becomes. More emotional intelligence equals a more sophisticated communicative ego.
That seems to be the implication. And it makes incredible sense of how much we communicate non-verbally, doesn't it? Think about a sigh can say so much frustration, a quick glance, a raised eyebrow, a nervous laugh. These are those emotional protocols in action, that primordial substratum, working constantly beneath or alongside our words.
Yeah, absolutely.
Think about a baby. Long before they get language, they learn to read their parents' moods, intentions, comfort, fear, purely through emotional signals. Faces, tone of voice, touch. That early, vital interpretation of feelings is the absolute bedrock for all the language and symbols they'll learn later.
It gives them the first frame of reference for meaning.
Exactly. That shared emotional constitution is the starting point. It's why a grimace of pain or a smile of joy is understood instantly, anywhere in the world, regardless of language. This emotional common ground is what lets us then build the incredible complexity of symbolic language on top, knowing there's a shared basis for understanding underneath.
This really connects the dots beautifully, our ancient biology and our sophisticated human communication working together. But it's important to bring in the other side too, right? Our unique human bodies and brains obviously played a huge part. It wasn't just emotions.
Oh, absolutely critical. And the source is careful to acknowledge this vital interplay. It explicitly says, it is true, as extensively documented in numerous neurological, anthropological, and linguistic theories, that the functional architecture of human communication, our unique communicative morphology, indeed contributed to the spiraling complexity of our discourse.
Okay, communicative morphology. So that's things like our vocal cords, our specific brain areas for language.
Precisely, yeah. Our unique vocal tract lets us make a huge range of sounds very quickly essential for complex speech. Our brains have highly developed areas like Broca's and Wernicke's, specialized for language processing in a way no other species has. And, crucially, our advanced cognitive abilities, thinking abstractly, using symbols, recursion, which is embedding ideas within ideas to create endless sentence structures. These unique human traits are undeniably crucial for the sheer richness and power of our language.
So it's definitely not an either thing then. Our amazing language skills didn't just erase the emotional foundation. They built on it, amplified it, worked with it. It's a synergy.
Exactly the word. A powerful synergy. The source emphasizes that this incredible complexity of our language was always in conjunction with these deeper emergent layers of emotional and symbolic structuring. Our ability to create complex grammar, huge vocabularies, abstract arguments, it's astounding.
Yeah.
But the underlying ability to actually share the meaning of those symbols to make sure my justice connects with your justice is grounded initially and fundamentally in that shared emotional constitution.
So the fancy language gives us the complexity, but the emotion gives us the connection, the shared understanding.
That's a great way to summarize it. The linguistic sophistication allows for infinite expression, But the emotional common ground ensures we're actually communicating, not just making noise at each other. It means human communication is this intricate weave of logic and emotion. Emotion provides the bedrock, the shared world upon which we build our towers of symbolic thought. It makes our communication robust, meaningful, and, well, deeply human. It's why sometimes when words just fail, a shared glance or a comforting touch can say everything.
Wow. Okay, let's try and wrap our heads around what this means for us day to day. This deep dive, it's really taken us on quite a ride. From that ancestral murmur of animal communication, through Mead's paradox, that chicken and egg problem, and arriving at this really elegant solution offered by the theory of basic emotions. Our amazing language didn't just appear. It's deeply tied to, built right on top of, a shared emotional core that stretches back through evolution and across species.
And just to really drive it home, that semantic equivalence, that shared meaning rooted in our common emotional makeup, that's what lets us truly take the attitude of the other in a way that actually works. It allows for real understanding, real empathy, and the development of our complex selves as communicators. It provides the missing piece, that pre-linguistic common ground that solves the paradox and allows for everything else to follow.
And realizing this, I mean, really realizing it, can fundamentally shift how you experience every conversation you have. From just saying hello to trying to sort out a major disagreement, it reminds you that under all the words, all the logic, there's this powerful, universal emotional language running constantly. It explains why empathy isn't just about nodding and saying, I understand your point. It's about actually feeling something of the other person's emotional state, tuning into what they're really experiencing beneath the surface. And this affects everything, doesn't it? How we bond with people, how we navigate conflicts, how we build shared purpose in families, teams, communities. It's a huge reminder that truly connecting isn't just about choosing the right words. It's about creating that emotional resonance, tapping into that ancient, shared wellspring of feeling that ultimately makes us understandable to each other. So here's a final thought to leave you with. If our deepest ability to understand and connect comes from the shared emotional core, something ancient and cross-species, what does that imply for our future? Not just for getting better at talking to each other, maybe by focusing more on emotional intelligence, but what about trying to understand or even interact with other kinds of intelligence, maybe other life forms if we ever find them, or even advanced AI? Could it be that the very first step, the key to bridging what seem like impossible communication gaps, is to look for, or maybe even try to build, a shared emotional foundation first? What basic emotions are truly universally fundamental? What feelings form the absolute bedrock of all meaning, waiting perhaps to be recognized or even replicated in minds very different from our own? It's a pretty mind-bending thought to ponder. Until next time, keep diving deep.